Hi, I'm going to try demo the cube application. So one comes here and you choose the name of the cube. There could be others. For example, we could have cubes for courses or something like that. This brings up the initial view, which is the total cube. So it's without any filtering or drilling down. These are the aggregations. Record count, so that's the harvest data. It's the total number of harvest records, total sum of hours, billable hours and non-billable hours, and the percentage billable hours. Okay, these are more specific. This is the average weekly capacity for staff member. That's the average budget of a project. And this one currently doesn't mean anything in this context, only per user. Okay, so there's 4 views. This is the explore view. There's also a fact table view, which I'm not going to show now. That just shows every single record, and the only thing you can do there is filter it. Then there's a series table view, which I don't use, but it's very similar to this explore view or cube view, except that it can only take one measure. And then there's also a chart view. So the chart view, you have a variety of different charts here: pie, a couple of bar ones, line, area, radar. But I'd say the primary views are this explore or sort of regular cube view and this chart view. So now this is the total data. So obviously that's not incredibly useful. The only thing useful here might be the percentage, the average percentage billable hours, I guess, or the average project budget. So we would then drill down, so if I just can explain these, this is drill down. So that means to start to look at the aggregations by a dimension. And that includes hierarchies. So there's a number of hierarchies. Everything with an arrow is a hierarchy. Client, project, task, date. So there's a few different date hierarchies, but they're all basically year, month, day, or year, quarter, month, day. Team, and then user. We've also got project start date. So that's related to projects. So this date is the date of the time entry being recorded in Harvest. So for example, all the time entries for a month, whereas this would be all the time entries for a project that started at a particular time. Then the last 2 hierarchies are user and project assignment and project user assignment. That's basically looking at projects by the user, by the staff that are working on them, and staff by the projects that they're working on. So these are all of the dimensions. I'll just quickly, other than those ones, we've got user, client, project, task, team. So we have them on their own and within hierarchies. Then billable is just, was that time entry billable? Employee is that employee a contractor or an employee? And is active user, is that staff member active or a previous staff member? So that's the drill down. Then there's also filter. So we can filter the records by a dimension, and commonly one might use the date filter. So date filter, you can just set up, a date range. So this would be all harvest records within this date range. See, it's created this, everything all the options we choose We'll come here in the top left. You can click on the bin just to get rid of that. Okay, another feature is that one can hide the aggregations, hide and re-add them. In fact, I could add other aggregations, but I don't think they are really needed. For example, minimum, maximum, standard deviation, and variance. So, for example, and averages, like for example, the maximum project budget or whatever. Okay, then there's also view and panel. I wouldn't worry about panel, that's more technical. So view in this context doesn't do anything, but if I change to chart, it's going to say, please choose a measure. So I would come here to measure. And so, yeah, so then now view is populated with a lot of things. Chart type, toggle the legend, that's just what it sounds like. And so for series table and chart, you have to choose a view and a measure, and you can only have one measure. So okay, I'm gonna try show more about charts quickly. So to get a chart, you come here and you click on the chart option of your 4 views. So it's telling us we need to add a measure. Go to the view tab, and here these are all of our measures. So let me choose sum of billable hours, and now it's telling me I need a horizontal dimension. Alternatively, I could also add a horizontal dimension with the drill down, and it gives a slightly different effect. So let me choose client. Right, yeah, so I haven't been able to order it by the measure yet. I can order it by the name, in other words, alphabetically, but not by the measure. I don't know if that's possible. It might be though, but I haven't accomplished that yet. So this is now the one view, and one can go ahead and change the type of chart on the fly. I also haven't yet found a way to have multiple measures on one chart. Okay, so another way to, so we've got our measure here, which is sum of billable hours, and our dimension is client. So there's another way, and one can only have one measure with a chart and one horizontal dimension. Another way to look at this measure is if I go to horizontal dimension and I clear it, I go none. I can instead go to the drill down, and I could go to client here. And so this provides a slightly different view. Firstly, I can alter the size. Yeah, that's all it does of the chart. Once again, we've got this mouse over to see the names. However, the names aren't at the bottom here. And at the moment, the names, if there are too many elements in the chart, the words are squashed or overlapping. Also, it's got the different colors, and it's got this legend at the top, and this legend can be hidden there. I know that it's still showing a bit, but that actually does, that will disappear if I just do that again. So that legend is now gone completely. Yeah, so I think a lot of the time this legend isn't going to be terribly useful. I mean, you might want to exclude certain clients, I guess. Some of the time, I think this legend will be useful. And one can then just select, you can also do that. I guess if you just want to compare, a selection, it's going to be useful. It's got the stacked view, which, yeah, it's good for comparison, I guess. Cool. So yeah, and then one can, of course, drill down further. So maybe we want to drill down by task now. The, the server is going a bit slower, it seems. Okay, cool. So really we can't see anything. Yeah, so it's really too much data. I mean, we could sort of production delivery, on-site support might be useful, learning delivery. So then one might want to filter by the date, and we'd maybe just say everything from the beginning of this year. But essentially, one can drill down by many different dimensions, but one can only look at one measure at a time. It's only with the explore view, which I think is a typical cube view, like SQL Server Analysis Services view, that one has got um, the ability to look at multiple measures. So yeah, I can just switch here between chart and series table. So a series table it's the third option here. It is a table, but it can only take one measure. So here we have a horizontal dimension. I don't think there's really any difference between a horizontal dimension and drilling down in terms of the data that it returns. One can only have one horizontal dimension, but one can drill down by, I think, an unlimited amount of dimensions. But they have basically the same effect in terms of the data that they represent. So I'm just going to try and explain this a bit more. So, for example, you might want to drill into team. It's going a bit slowly today. It's normally not this slow. So we could then order this to see who's who's working more hours. So over here there are forward and back buttons, so one can sort of undo and redo. What I could do there instead is I could drill down by team and then user. So I could use that hierarchy, and then could click forward there, or I could select production, and then it would give me the details. I can change the amount of items it displays there. Can also resize these columns. I can delete columns or hide them at least. Probably we're going to be using date filters most of the time. To do that here in filter, date filter, and then I would choose date range.